Welcome to the Planet Purl video tutorial, part 2, needle felting. When we left off, we were in the middle of applying our needle felting to our flower. So you can see on the back how nicely covered it is with the pink that's come through. In fact, it's even on the foam here. So we've gotten a nice good bond. We're going to cut the yarn. And then we'll just tuck that end through with the needle felting needle, just like we did with the rest of the application for the flower. And because I'm really paranoid about my embellishments coming loose, I'll go back over it and over it. Remember, go straight up and down so you don't break the needles. My first project, I went through 10 probably in the first hour till I got the hang of it. So now let's apply the little yellow trim to the flower. Now I'm using a much heavier yarn for this. I want to do it with a single strand. So I'll cut it the length that I want, plus a little bit for tucking in the ends. And I'm just going to show you one of these. So we're going to tuck the end in right up next to the pink so that there's no white space showing. And I'm just going to tack along the edge. Now when you're working this close to the needle, be very careful with your finger because it's quite painful if the needle goes through it. Even more painful to get the needle back out. So I'll tack it down and then I'll go back over it. And you'll see the yellow comes out the other side as well, so we can see that we're making a good connection. So now I've gone back over and over it. And I'm going to show you how to make the dot. So we're going to fold the yarn up into a little ball and tack it down right where we want the ball to be placed. And we'll tack around the outlines of the size of the ball that we want to make. And you can see it's kind of a rough circle, but we're going to take those little outside edges and kind of push them toward the center until we get it in the size that we'd like. So we'll just move from the outside, pushing the fiber toward the center of the ball. And tacking down. And so you can see how it's becoming more and more circular shaped. But see all those loose threads? We're going to keep grabbing them and pushing them through. And we'll move them from the outside toward the center as we shape the outside edges of our circle. So those little loose edges, we're going to just push toward the center and tack them in on top. And you can see there's some loose edges there. We tacked them down, and here it is with two of them done. So we still want to do a little stem here, which we'll do freehand. And I want it to be a nice thin stem. So I'm going to use the thinner yarn as opposed to the thick yellow that I used at the top. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a little extra yarn along the pink, and I'm going to tuck that through, making sure I don't leave any blank space. And as I'm just going to go straight along, just like I did with the yellow at the top, creating my design. You can see it coming through the back, going back over it. Now, if you'd like, I could have added here some little leaves, and I would have done an outside edge and then gone inside like I did with the pink flower. And that is how you embellish. The next thing we need to do is to set the needle felting. You're going to need a hot iron and a wet towel or damp towel. So this is set at the wool setting on the iron with the steam on. This is just a cotton washcloth that's been dampened and squeezed out, but it should be good and damp, but not dripping wet. I'm going to lay it over the wool, take my very hot iron and go back and forth over my design. And you know, felt is created by moisture and heat and friction, so this actually helps set the design in the felt and makes it harder to pull it loose. So here's some examples of some pretty things you can do with needle felting. This is a Marta McCall design. It's from the book Color Style. And I did this with a relatively fuzzy yarn. So it's done in tarsia and then trimmed along the edge to smooth the jaggies that you get when you do felt in tarsia. And then it's done along the inside as well with multiple rows. And then the little dots are added just like we did the dots on the flower earlier. And you can see it gives not only that smoother edge, but that raised texture. Actually, the video doesn't do that justice. It's really beautiful. This is also another Marta McCall design. It's her needle felted bucket bag with my own needle felted design on it rather than the one from the pattern. I did these eggs with the Noro yarn that we used for the flower on our teach. And this is the inside of the bag. You can see how the needle felting shows through just a little bit. So I cut the yarn up and used it as a palette to do the design. Now this is our last example. It's also from Marta McCall. It's her Ravenna satchel done in a different colorway. All of the large pieces, the leaves, the flowers, are done in intarsia, and then it's edged to smooth out the intarsia after you felt it. All these little designs then are added. This flower basically was just a big lump of purple, or this was a big lump of orange before we started. And then all of the detailing was added, and then the edging all the way around. Oh, poor puppy. She doesn't seem too excited about needle felting. Montana. Yeah, her sister's not that excited either, but I promise you, needle felting is really fun and exciting, and you won't have to lick your paws afterwards. So come visit us soon at planetpurl.com.